The new Black Clover chapter is out, chapter 381, and it's Lucius versus Yuno. This was an epic fight this chapter. Tabata cooked, let's read it. The chapter starts off with Yuno and Lucius having a standoff, and we get a good look at Yuno's new form. Lucius says, "That is not good, I knew it, you really are the most dangerous one, and the one who made it happen, the one who's nearly a corpse." So then Lucius sends a huge attack at Yuno, but he has a new attack called Black Tornado Fang, and he completely destroys Lucius' spell. And then Yuno pulls up with his sword in his hand and a black tornado behind him, and he swings at Lucius, but he misses. And the reason he missed is because this sword is so heavy. He says Asta, that muscle-bound freak, he's swinging something this heavy around. Then Lucius appears behind him and says anti-magic attacks warrant the utmost caution. And then he attacks Yuno, and Yuno goes flying down. And then we get this really cool page of them falling from the sky. Yuno's black stars are always around him, and Lucius is getting closer. And then Lucius crashes on the ground, and Yuno bends backwards, and he sends an attack at Lucius. He calls it Black Crescent Moon Sickle. But Lucius dodges the attack, and Yuno rushes him, and he hits him with his sword. But his other arm is raised up, and he's swinging it down. Yuno swings down, and he breaks Lucius' sword, and he cuts through him, and I think he kills him. But then out of nowhere, Lucius appears behind Yuno, and he's going to touch Yuno to use soul magic. But Yuno creates a new spell called Black Neverland. And this looks so cool, and Lucius says, "My magic is disappearing," and Yuno looks at him. Then he swings at Lucius, but Lucius backs up. Lucius says, "Impressive, I'll whittle away at you until that limited anti-magic runs out. Before it does, you'll be dead." And I just want to point out the fact that Yuno held his own against Lucius right here. Like, the odds were stacked against him, but he just clutched up against him. And then we cut over to Noelle, and her mom is going to attack her. But the goat Marileona is pulling up to fight her mentor Ossier. She says, "Noelle, go, that's not your mother anymore, I'll take care of her." Then we cut over to Asta and Mimosa. She wants to heal Asta, but she can't heal Asta and heal the other injured people, so she doesn't know what to do. But the soldiers are like, "Screw us, heal Asta, he can save the kingdom." And I love that he's getting more recognition. But then this archangel pulls up and attacks them. Mimosa is running away while carrying Asta, but the attacks are getting close to her. And then Morris pulls up and he says he wants to focus on his research, but he'll take out Asta for Master Lucius. But then we hear some people say he's not a flaw. That's my friend, and the Diamond Kingdom pulled up to the fight. Mars, Fauna, that guy, his teacher, the other dude he fought, they all pulled up. Man, this is perfect. The Diamond Kingdom is going up against Morris, like their ex-boss or whatever. They used to work together, so this is very poetic. And Lucius and Yuno had an amazing fight. I can't wait to see this part get animated. Our man Mars is back, and he says, "As promised to Asta, I'm here to help." We see Fonzel, his wife, his student, Lotus, and Ladros. The old man says, "Don't worry, we're on Asta's side." Lotus says, "Good grief, these people push one-armed old guys way too hard." Ladros says, still, this is pretty ironic, no?" They say Morris was a high and mighty scholar who used all of them and now is a monster. And Morris says, "Diamond, who thought we would have met here, but it's too late." He says, "You're actually embarrassing. It's like looking at something small I bragged about when I was a small child. Return to the soil, ghosts of the past." But then this new character says, "You're the ghost of the past, Morris, even without your body modifications. We've grown stronger," and she has the earth spirit. Morris says, "My former greatest success, Faramina, one of the 8 shining generals and the host of the spirit of earth." And she looks so cool. And then we get this amazing double spread of all of them attacking Morris. Like, this is so peak right here. I love it. And then Fonzel gets Mimosa out of there, and he says, "We'll take care of Morris." And then we cut to the Clover Kingdom, and they say, "Go, Yuno, you got this." And Yuno is using a new spell called Black Wind Blade Shower, and he's throwing all these blades at Lucius. And Lucius and Yuno are just going through things and destroying everything. And Lucius says, "Now then, which comes first? Will we settle this fight, or will we run out of citizens to protect?" And we look at the kingdom, and everything is being destroyed. And these archangels are attacking the citizens. But then we see some snow at the bottom. And it's Nage, that guy from all the way back in Black Clover. And if you look back here, he's been making a lot of snow, so he's been helping. And he says, "This time I'm protecting protecting people of my own free will. But then out of nowhere, these blocks appear and the Archangel blasts it, and they're everywhere now, and someone says, "We do apologize, citizens." And it's this girl from the movie. She says, "Sorry, but there's nothing we hate more than winging it. We spent all of our time getting ready until the last possible moment, here in branch 0 of our magic tool research lab." Noelle says, "But the researchers, why?" But Nero says, "So they made it in time." Sally says, "I didn't really get what Asta was saying back then, but at the magic tool research lab, I worked for the good of the kingdom and everyone thanked me. Now I think I get it." And then this villain from the past says, "Now is the time to atone." And then he creates a portal to an archangel. And then this guy shoots a gun through it and hits the archangel. Sally says, "I did oodles of research on Asta's magicless body and that ammunition is the result." She says that ammunition screws up your magic circuits and makes your magic fail. Just by using this gun, once you get your shot, you can't use magic for 5 seconds. Then we see Rades on the bottom right here, and he says, "So they tell me you use soul magic to trap crowds of souls, and you're using them to run these things." And then he touches one of them and he says, "Well, I'll use my wraith magic to tear those off you and send them back to heaven," and this is awesome. And everyone sees him take this thing out and they say, "That was so epic." Then he says, "Damn it," and he thinks back to Asta and he was like, "You were right, you freaking loser." Then the civilians are like, "But there's way too many," and then we see someone flying in. And it's the elves, they pulled up. And Padre says, "We swear on the power of the elves, this time we will protect the humans." The whole third eye has pulled up and they're fighting the archangels. And to end the chapter, Mimosa says, "Asta, you could even make your old enemies your allies." That was such a great chapter. Everyone was pulling up. It felt like the Avengers. It really does show the impact that Asta has made. The chapter starts off with Yuno fighting Lucius, and Lucius is using the previous Wizard King's powers. But Yuno uses a new spell called Quintile Atrium Flagellum, and he slices right through it and breaks it, but Lucius creates a giant sword. And it goes down at Yuno, but using his black stars, he creates a pentagon. And the sword goes straight into it. Then Yuno creates a new attack right here, and sends it flying at Lucius, and it goes up into the sky. It's called Quintile Atrium Hosta. And then Lucius and Yuno are flying at each other, and then their swords hit, and then they land on these flying rocks. Yuno says, "You're pretty desperate about chasing me around. You're really that scared of Asta, aren't you? Did you manage to predict his old enemies leveling up and taking his side? I guess your foresight genuinely doesn't work on him." Lucius says, "This is nothing, just a battle of attrition. It won't go on for long, just like your borrowed anti-magic." And they see on this broadcast magic that Mimosa is really hurt. "You tried very hard, but it looks like it's already checkmate." And then this archangel goes to attack Mimosa, but then her brother Kirsch pulls up. He says, "Whose beautiful little sister do you think you're trying to attack? The gall of making my sister protect you, you lucky oaf. What happened to all that vigor when you thrashed me?" And then the archangel is coming at them. Then Langris pulls up and takes out the archangel. Langris says, "It may have not been an actual battle, but he did beat me. I can't have him lying around like that." But then the archangel starts to regenerate. But then our boy Leo has pulled up to the fight. It's been so long since we saw this dude. He says, "Asta, would you wake up already? I won't stand for such pathetic behavior from my rival." Mimosa says he's keeping Monomethod active and cloaking himself in it from head to toe. And Langris says, "Good one." And Lucius says, "However, all of this is merely buying time. No matter how often you defeat them, the angels will rise again." Then Kirsch, Langris, and Leo remember what Asta said, and they lock in. They say, "I acknowledge you now. Didn't you get stronger so that we could fight together? Get up, fight, vanquish Lucius." Mimosa's right there, and she says, "I'm not going to make it in time." Then Finral pulls up with Charmy, and she says, "Eat up." Finral says, "When we saw that fight, it made us think that Asta and his rival wouldn't give up, so don't give up, Mimosa." And she eats real quick, and she says, "Thank you very much." Then she uses ultimate plant magic, Flower Princess Utopia, and she says, "Asta, please save the world. Everyone is waiting." Then an archangel jumps at her, but Asta cuts it down and he says, "Mimosa, thanks," and she says, "Of course." And to end the chapter, he says, "Lucius, I'm coming for you." And this was a great chapter, guys. I love how everyone is coming back from the past. Everyone from the series is literally here at this battle. Yuno and Lucius had a really cool fight this chapter. Mimosa got some spotlight saving Asta. But let me know, guys, how y'all feel about this. Do you like the new batch of chapters we got?